Hi guys. So today we're going to be doing social studies. I know you're all excited. So last time we met, we were talking about James Madison and we were talking about the War of 1812, just getting started on that. And then I had you read a couple pages on your own and answer a couple questions on your own. Most of you did pretty good. Some of you, make sure you're paying attention when you're reading, and when you are going through and answering questions on the pod, that you have your book out and you can use it. I try to do these little couple of things on your own and little questions so that you're paying attention, because those could be on the test. Just saying. Because we're going to try to fit one more chapter in. We have 4 weeks. Do you think we can do it? I don't know. We'll see. All right. So I want to give you a little background on today's lesson. There's no workbook page. I just want you to, but there's going to be a couple questions on the pod. I just want you to pay attention. But if you want to follow along, I'm going to be reading off of page 107 and 108. But I want to give you a little bit of background about Canada and Great Britain first, because that's who we're going to read about today. So I'm going to pull up a little closer and adjust my screen. There we go. So many colonists settled in Canada prior to the Revolutionary War. After the war, about 75,000 Americans moved to Canada because of their loyalty to Great Britain. In addition, many American farmers migrated to areas in Ontario, which is in Canada, in the years following the war. The American government thought that these American immigrants to Canada would readily support the United States invasion of Canada. But this did not happen because the immigrant farmers were largely non-political. Further, the loyalists that had fled to Canada after the Revolutionary War expressed strong opposition to U.S. aggression in Canada at the start of the War of 1812. So I'm going to stop right there, and we're going to go ahead and read these pages together. So page 107, follow along. And just be thinking about, I'm going to talk about a couple of things, but just be thinking about what we're reading. So Canada, that's our main heading today. When the war began, Americans knew where to start fighting. They wanted to defeat the British in Canada. It was a powerful colony of Britain. Why? Because I just told you how many people moved there? 75,000, okay? Britain often traded with Canada instead of the United States. More importantly, the British in Canada supplied weapons to the Indians in the United States. The Americans thought taking over Canada would be easy. There were few British soldiers in Canada. Americans hoped that Canadians might join the United States. Americans thought Canadians wanted freedom from Britain. Notice that I said that 3 different times because that's what it says. They thought taking over Canada would be easy. They hoped Canadians might join the United States. And they thought Canadians wanted freedom from Britain. Did they really know? No, they're guessing. They thought, they hoped. So we're going to turn the page in a minute and see what happened. But first, let's look at the picture down here. This little painting, it looks like. This was the Battle of Queenston Heights. This was the first major battle of 1812, War of 1812. I know all of you guys out there are loving this picture. So take a look at that. Appreciate that. Turn the page. So the Americans' hopes soon fell. First sentence. Canadians did not join the American side. The American generals attacked Canada from the Michigan Territory, which was close to Canada's capital. When the British fought back, one American general gave up his entire army. The Americans did not gain Canada. They also lost the Michigan Territory to the British. The Americans tried again. They attacked Canada twice from New York, and both times the New York military would not help the U.S. in Canada. Without extra help, the U.S. military was not strong enough, and the United States could not take over Canada. Interesting. They tried, a good couple times, and nothing didn't happen. So I want to ask you a couple questions, and then there'll be a couple questions to follow on the pod. So, what do you think some of the problems would be in fighting a war across an ocean? Think about that. We're over here in the US or in Canada, and what would be some of the problems if you're trying to fight a war across a complete huge mass of ocean? Okay. Some answers could be you couldn't communicate very well, right? It would be hard to communicate. Getting supplies to the soldiers would be difficult. Making plans from far away. Think back then, they didn't have a telephone. They didn't have the internet to pick up and, make plans over the internet. So I think all that kind of stuff would have been hard to plan and communicate, to have a plan. They wouldn't have done that. Okay, so, and what are some other names that are used to identify England? Britain, Great Britain, or the United Kingdom? And what had become a powerful colony of Great Britain? We just talked about it. Canada. And who often traded with Canada instead of the United States? The British. All right. So that's kind of our little lesson today. It's not very long. It's kind of the end of the last lesson that we talked about. I just didn't want to overburden you with too much information. So I try to span it out. Do one lesson for 2 days. So the next video for this week will be the next lesson. And I think you have a workbook page for that. So I will see you guys here again. Make sure you check out the pod.